Hey guys, welcome to another video. My name is Ian. I am Ian the Reader, and today I have a May wrap-up for you and a June TBR. Now, I had a pretty good reading month in the month of May. I'm very excited to talk to you about the 10 books that I managed to finish that month, and I also have quite a few exciting things on the docket for June. Now, just like last month, though, I am not going to go too crazy with my TBR. More than anything, I'm just going to talk to you about the books I am absolutely planning on reading, maybe a couple others that I'm really hopeful to read, but I'm going to leave myself a lot of room just to pick books that I feel like I want to read rather than just setting like a huge TBR for myself and then failing miserably at completing it. Before we get into that though, it would mean the world to me if you would like and subscribe if you have not already. I post videos every Monday and Wednesday and Friday, and I would love it if you stuck around for those. In addition to that, I used to talk about the different teas that I was drinking a lot on the channel, but because I was filming in my garage and it was like 1,000,000,000 degrees out there, I was just not into hot tea. That being said, now that I'm inside, I'm drinking tea again. And today I have a nice mint herbal tea. It is delightful, it is light, it is refreshing. I'm still a little bit sick. I say a little bit, I've been pretty miserable to be honest, but I am really enjoying this mint tea. It's very refreshing and definitely lifting my spirits. Before I jump into my May books, leave a comment for me down below letting me know what your favorite book that you read in May was. I'm very excited to talk to you about some of these. I had one 5-star book, one almost 5-star book, and a lot of other great ones. So let's go ahead and talk about it. So I'm going to go ahead and talk about the books that I don't have physical copies of first, get those out of the way. Other than that, there's not going to be really a particular order as to the books. I'm just going to grab them and go from there. So, books that I read that I do not own physical copies of. First, let's talk about Hounded by Kevin Hearn. This is a book that has been on my radar for a long time. I am a huge fan of the Dresden Files. I read all 17 books back in 2020, and I'm kind of obsessed with the Dresden Files, to be honest. I'm currently slowly working through a reread of those, but I've really been hungering for something to fill the Dresden Files shaped void in my heart and in my reading life, and so I had this series recommended to me a number of times. The question is, did it live up? So nothing is really going to live up to the Dresden Files in my mind, at least, but I do see the comparisons for sure. As far as this goes, I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed the light nature of this book. It was a lot of fun, and in a lot of ways, it definitely feels like Dresden Files did in the first book, or even in the first few books, because it hasn't quite gotten, the strong footing yet. It's just very lighthearted, and you don't necessarily know where the characters and the story is going to go. That being said, I can definitely see the groundwork that this author did in this book, and I can definitely see that it's going to be a fun series. So I am definitely planning on continuing with these books at some point. I don't know when, maybe next time I'm just craving something light and new and urban fantasy. I'll go ahead and pick up book 2. As far as this book goes, I enjoyed it. I wasn't crazy about it. I'm feeling a light 3 out of 5. Next up, let's talk about the one reread that I did this month. That is The Silkworm by Robert Galbraith. I've been really enjoying my time back with Robin and Strike, the 2 protagonists of this series. It's just a fun mystery series, to be honest, with some lovable characters. The mysteries are never like why I read these books, to be honest. Like, the mysteries are pretty good. Some of them are even great, but this one in particular, the mystery is not at all what I'm here for. It's really just the dynamic between the characters. I had a blast with this. It is a 4-star reread for me. Then, for my goal to read one nonfiction book a month, this month I decided to pick up Crying in H Mart by Michelle Zauner. This is a book that I have had on my radar since it came out. It has been getting so many good reviews. A lot of people are just very moved by this book, and I can absolutely see why. This is the story, or the memoir, of Michelle Zauner, who is the lead vocalist front woman for the band Japanese Breakfast. Really, it's her solo project, but it is her memoir of her growing up and her relationship with her mother and her time as her mother's caretaker when she is diagnosed with cancer, and also just her life as an artist and her progression throughout her career. This is a very moving book. It is very emotional. It is not a light read by any means. It definitely bummed me out as I was reading it, but it was also very powerful. Just the ways that it analyzed the mother-daughter relationship and the complexities there, and the desire to, make your parents proud while also wanting to be yourself, and the ways that we perceive how our parents feel about us and things like that. It was just really a very emotional novel, or not novel, emotional memoir, and I'm very glad that I read it. This was a 4 out of 5 for me. And the last book that I read that I do not have a physical copy of is Sphere by Michael Crichton. This was my first Michael Crichton book. I've been wanting to pick up one of his works for so long. If you don't know, Michael Crichton is the author of Jurassic Park, which is apparently a lot different in the book form. I'm very excited to read that at some point, but I decided to pick up Sphere. I have a reading vlog coming out soon, probably in the next couple of weeks. That is me trying 3 science fiction authors that I've never tried before, and Michael Crichton was one of the authors that I featured. I'll go ahead and save my rating and more of my thoughts for that video, but just know that I had a good time with this one. That concludes the books I don't have physical copies of. Let's jump into the rest. So, the biggest book that I read, not by a lot, but the biggest book that I read in the month of May was The Stand by Stephen King. This book has been on my TBR for years and years and years. I'm a huge Stephen King fan, and this book is the one that I just had up there as oh my gosh, this is the book that I will read one day and it'll change my life. Not really, but as a huge Stephen King fan, you have to look forward to reading The Stand, and I definitely was looking forward to it. Perhaps too much, because I did really enjoy this book. It's probably a 4.25, maybe 4.5 for me, but it wasn't perfect, and unfortunately it does fall short of the top 5 Stephen King books for me. I'll make a video at some point talking about my top 5 Stephen King books, but The Stand is an amazing book, don't get me wrong. It is epic in every sense of the word. It has an insane amount of characters, so much going on. It is a masterfully crafted good versus evil story that just was a bit too much for me, to be honest. I've talked to some of my friends here about what I felt about this book, but to be honest, I just felt like it was too long-winded. And that's obviously it's very long, and it's Stephen King, and he always goes into the little details of people's lives and communities, and I love that normally. It's just with this, there were so many characters and we went so far with so many of them that you lost the progression of the story, the momentum a little bit. In other books, he does that. 11/22/63 is a great example. I've talked about this a little bit in my weekly updates, but in 11/22/63 by Stephen King, which is one of my favorite books of all time, it digs into the minutia of just life in that time and in that setting quite a bit. But that didn't bother me because you still have your main character as an anchor, But with this, there are literally not dozens, I mean maybe dozens. There are a lot of perspectives in this story, and each one gets so much page time that it was just a lot, I would have appreciated if maybe there was this large cast of characters, but we really focused in on just a couple to really hone in on the heart of this story. I did definitely get a lot out of this, and I'm very excited to discuss it, hopefully in a live show with Andrew, who I buddy read this with on Wizardly Duo Discord. I'll go ahead and link his channel down below, as well as the Wizardly Duo Discord. I'm hopeful to discuss this live with people because I would love to hear more thoughts on this. For me, I really did enjoy it. Really, I loved it, but it was not quite a 5-star for me, because while the first third was amazing, the last third was amazing, the middle third I just got a little bit lost. Next, let's talk about Old Man's War by John Scalzi. This is another book that is being featured in that I Try 3 Sci-Fi Authors. I Try 3 Sci-Fi. That's hard to say for some reason. But this is also featured in that book because I never read a John Scalzi book. I will say I really enjoyed this one as well. This book is hilarious, especially the first half of it. I had a great time with this. I'll talk more about that in that vlog though. Then I read Into Ebonmore, Offspring of the Throne by Logan Leshane. The author was very kind and sent me this with a cool box. I'll go ahead and link the unboxing video for that down below. There were a lot of cool goodies and things in that box. But this was a lot of fun. I had a really good time with this book. It is self-published, like I said, and it is the start to a series. It's like a portal fantasy, kind of sci fantasy, refuses to be kept in a box kind of book, and I really enjoyed myself with it. The characters were fun. The world was one that I always was left guessing what was going to come next, and I'm very eager to see what happens in book 2. Also read Magpie by Elizabeth Day. This was sent to me by Simon & Schuster, and I'm super grateful for it because this was quite the gripping read. Another book that I completed this month is The Stardust Thief by Chelsea Abdullah. This is a book that I already reviewed on my channel. I'll go ahead and link that video down below. This is an amazing start to a fantasy trilogy, though, that is inspired by 1001 Arabian Nights. It is a blast. You should totally read it, totally check it out. This is actually a book of the month selection for the month of June as well, so if you'd like to get this book for pretty cheap, you can go ahead and check out book of the month as well. I'll leave a link down below. This book follows 3 characters living in a house together. There's a couple and a roommate. The couple gets pregnant with a child, and the roommate starts acting weird, and it goes from there. I'm not going to elaborate too much because this is a very spoilery book. I had a good time with this domestic thriller, though. It was heartbreaking at times. There's a lot of triggers, especially abuse, sexual abuse, physical abuse, emotional abuse, and infertility, infidelity. There's a lot going on in this book, but it was a very gripping read. I had a hard time putting it down. It hasn't quite stuck back as positively with me as the month has progressed. This was the first book that I read this month. At the end of my time with it, I gave it 4 stars. As it sat with me, maybe 3.5, but I still had a good time with it. And the last book that I want to talk about that I completed in the month of May was my 5-star book of the month, and that was The Wall of Storms. If you have read this book, there is a live discussion with me and some of my amazing booktuber friends and, well, book community friends, because Charmaine doesn't have a booktube yet. Charmaine, come on. But we discussed this in great detail for about an hour and a half. I'm going to do a spoiler-free review of book 1 and 2 of the Dandelion Dynasty at some point soon, but just know this book took everything I loved about The Grace of Kings and multiplied how much I loved it. This book is epic. This book is moving. This book is incredible. It is one of the best books I've ever read. Absolutely in my top 5 individual fantasy books of all time. So good. Okay, so that is all for my May wrap-up. It was a really great month. I read some spectacular books, and I will have some book reviews coming out for at least The Stand, and like I said, Grace of Kings and The Wall of Storms. Maybe some others. I haven't decided yet, but definitely those. And keep an eye out for my I Tried 3 Sci-Fi Authors vlog coming very soon. Speaking of that, let's go ahead and talk about the 3rd author that is going to be featured in that vlog. Where is my book? Where did it go? Here it is. Hyperion. That is the... Speaking of that vlog, though, let's go ahead and talk about the 3rd author that is being featured in that vlog. That is Dan Simmons with Hyperion. This is one of my 5-star predictions for quarter 2. I am so excited to be reading Hyperion. I don't really know a whole lot about it, to be honest, and that intimidates me a little because it seems very dense. I've just barely dipped into it, and it's going to take a lot of focus for sure. But I'm really excited. I hope that it's going to be 5 stars, and on top of that, Kyle from Read by Kyle and I are going to be buddy reading this over on the Wizardly Duo Discord. You're welcome to join us if you'd like. Neither of us have really gotten very far in it yet, and I'm super excited to find out how I feel about this book. Speaking of 5-star predictions, though, my 3rd 5-star prediction book for quarter 2 was The Corrections by Jonathan Franzen, and unfortunately, I've just had a very hard time getting into this book. I think it's just me. I think it's just right now, I'm not really feeling like a dense literary fiction that is more meandering. I'm wanting something a little bit more focused, and so for now, I'm setting that book aside, but I still do want to have a 3rd 5-star prediction for quarter 2, so I'm going to redraw from a very limited selection of books from my original list of 35-star predictions. If you'd like to see that full list, it is in the comment section of my Q2 drawing video. I'll go ahead and link that video down below. But for now, these are the 5 books that I'm including in the drawing for this last quarter 2 pick. Warbreaker by Brandon Sanderson. We Begin at the End by Chris Whitaker. Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. The Bell Jar by Sylvia Plath. And The Brief and Wondrous Life of Oscar Wilde by Junot Diaz. And my last 5-star prediction for quarter 2 is... Let's see. Oh, okay. Hamnet by Maggie O'Farrell. So this is a novel of the plague, apparently, which I just read The Stand last month. I just got COVID last month, and now I'm apparently reading another book about a plague, so that's exciting. This book is about a lot of different things. I think it revolves around, it's set in England in 1580, and it revolves around the death of Hamnet, a child who was the child of Shakespeare. I don't know if this is, like, factually correct. I mean, I'm sure it's just, the fictionalization of it, but it's based on that, and the death of Hamnet is what inspired, allegedly, the play Hamlet by Shakespeare. So I've heard amazing things about this book. I'm very excited to read it. Now let's go and talk about the books that I am currently reading and will be carrying over into the month of June. Now, most of these I mentioned in my weekly updates. If you already watched that, sorry, you're gonna have to listen to me talk about these a little bit more. But here we go. The first of those is Uzumaki by Junji Ito. I have read the first volume of this, and I am halfway through volume 2. I am loving this horror manga graphic novel thing. It is amazing. It is terrifying. Not really terrifying, but it's creepy. It's very unsettling. It's like body horror, and I'm really enjoying it. I'll have a full review up at some point. I am also currently reading Ordinary Monsters by J.M. Miro. This has appeared in a number of my TBRs, but I'm going to finish it this week because it comes out next week and I need to post a review. And the last book that I am currently reading is Voice of War by Zach Argyle. I'm buddy reading this with some people over on Discord, and I am super into it. I am about halfway through this book, and I am really enjoying it so far. I am very much enjoying the magic system, and the themes, and the characters, and I'm just really excited to see where it goes from here. Now, moving on from the books that I'm already in the middle of, let's go ahead and talk about a few other things that I am planning on reading in the month of June. Did I say May earlier? I hope I didn't. I think I said June, but whatever. So, my buddy read with my aunt for this month is Breach of Peace by Daniel Green, the disheveled goblin himself, or Daniel B. Green, as he is chosen to go by for his books. I'm very excited about this. Daniel Green is, a booktuber that is obviously inspired a lot of us here on BookTube. He really he's great. He's great. I'm super excited to see how I feel about this book. I'm also a part of a book club with my family, and our Q2 buddy read is The Cartographers by Peng Shepherd. I've heard some mixed things about this book, some really positive things, but also some really negative things, so I'm eager to see where my opinions fall on this. It's like a mystery thriller revolving around maps, and that's all I really know, so I'm excited to read it. My nonfiction book that I'm planning on reading this month is John Green's The Anthropocene Reviewed. I would love to honestly get this on audiobook. I may see if my library has it because I know John Green reads it and I just love listening to him talk. If you don't know, this is a collection of essays by John Green, the author of The Fault in Our Stars and Looking for Alaska and Turtles All the Way Down and some other books. But in this, it is his first work of nonfiction. He writes essays in this, basically reviewing things in life, different things like different ideas or different... I think he reviews Diet Dr. Pepper or something like that near the beginning. It's just random thoughts that he has on different things in life, and I'm very eager to hear that because he's a smart guy. And the last book that I'm absolutely getting to in June is The Veiled Throne, Book 3 in the Dandelion Dynasty by Ken Liu. We are continuing the read along on my channel. We've had quite a few people drop off, but there's still a number of us going steady with this series. I'm super excited to read this book and be prepared for the final book's release at the end of the month. I'm scared, but I'm very excited. This is just an epic series, you guys. You should totally read it. It is different. Be prepared because it is not like a lot of fantasy books and it requires more work and focus than a lot of people are prepared to give. But if you can commit to it, it is absolutely worth the time. But that is all for this video. Those are the books that I read in May and the books that I plan on reading in June. As far as May goes, obviously The Wall of Storms was a big highlight for me. The Stand as well. Like, that's the book that I'm most proud to have read just because it has been sitting there on my shelf taunting me for years and years. And now I feel like I can actually call myself a Stephen King fan since I've read The Stand. So there you go. And as far as June goes, I think the book that I'm most excited about, I'm excited to finish Ordinary Monsters because I've been slowly working my way through that book for months. And then in addition to that, I think the Anthropocene Reviewed is going to be really good. I'm hopeful for Hyperion and Hamnet, really all of the books. I'm very excited about my June TBR. It is stacked for sure, and I'll be shocked if I'm able to finish all of these. And I also have a few more secret books on my TBR that I'm hoping to maybe get to, but we'll see. That being said, it's going to be a really good reading month. I'm excited. So thank you so much for watching. I would love it if you guys would just leave a comment for me down below telling me what books, you're hopeful to read. I know that June is a nice, slower time for a lot of people. A lot of you who are working in schools or going to school have some time off. So maybe this is a good time for you to tackle some big tomes that have been sitting on your shelves. I know that that's my plan because I'm currently out of grad school and hopefully things will be slowing down for me a little bit in life as well. Thank you so much for watching. I hope that you enjoyed, and I will see you in the next video. Bye!